All right, so today we are going to look at the next section, day 4, in our notes. So we're still working with angle relationships. We're getting close to the end. We have today day 4, complementary and supplementary angles. We have tomorrow day 5, linear pairs and vertical angles. Then we're going to kind of review everything, put it all together with a review. And we're actually not going to test though till next week, okay, Tuesday. So we'll have a couple days of review to make sure we're ready for the Unit 1 test, because it's also going to have some segments on it, not just angles. Okay? So again, we've done adjacent angles, we've done angle bisectors. Now we're going to look at complementary and supplementary angles. So we just have 2 vocabulary words today. 2 new words, complementary and supplementary. Complementary angles are 2 angles whose sum is 90. How many angles? 2 angles. It's super important that we're remembering it's a pair of angles. So I can't have 3 angles that add up to 90 and call them complementary. I can't have 1 right angle and call it complementary. It has to be 2 angles whose sum, when we say sum, what do we mean? Addition, right? So when we add them together, it equals 90 degrees. Okay? Ladies, gentlemen, please don't be sorry. Just stop talking. I've asked several times. All right. So, complementary angles can be adjacent. Remember, that means they share a vertex and a ray and they don't overlap. Or they can be non-adjacent, which means they don't share a vertex or a ray. They might share a vertex, but maybe not the ray. They might share part of a ray, but go in the wrong direction. Okay? They might overlap each other. They can be adjacent or non-adjacent. When they are adjacent, you're going to see a little right angle form, because they're going to butt right up next to each other and make that full 90 degrees and look like the corner of a piece of paper, right? It's going to make a full 90-degree angle. Okay? All right. So, when I go through and I look at these examples and I want to decide, are they adjacent complementary, are they non-adjacent complementary, or are they just non-adjacent non-complementary or adjacent non-complementary? So the first thing we need to do is decide whether or not they're adjacent. These first 2 angles, are they adjacent? No, they're non-adjacent. Now I need to say, are they complementary or not complementary? So if they're complementary, then they will add to 90. What do 48 plus 52 add up to? 100. So are they complementary? No, so these are not complementary. Okay? Look at the second one. Are they adjacent or non-adjacent? Adjacent, because they're sharing this vertex. They're sharing this ray. They're not overlapping. They're just sitting right next to each other. So we know they are adjacent. And then, are they complementary or not complementary? If I take my 40 plus my 50, how many degrees do I have? 90. So are they complementary? Yes, so these are adjacent and complementary. Okay. My last example there, are they adjacent or non-adjacent? Non-adjacent. They don't share a vertex. They don't share a ray. And then, are they supplementary or not supplementary? Or sorry, complementary or not complementary? Complementary, because 70 plus 20 equals 90 degrees. Okay? If 2 angles are complementary, we say one angle complements the other. Okay? So complements the other. Sometimes the way I remember complementary is I remember one angle complements the other one. So it says something nice to the other angle, like, wow, I really like your shirt today. Your hair is really cool. Okay? it's always right to give somebody a compliment. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. They add up to a right angle. Okay? So one angle complements the other angle. So if you're ever asked to find the complement, it's just how many more degrees do I need to get to 90? So if the measure of angle A is 42 degrees, how many more degrees do I need to get to 90? 38 degrees. Is 38 plus 42 90? Oh, how many degrees short am I? 10 degrees. It's not 38. What is it? 48. So always check your math. Okay, what about 23 degrees? How many more degrees do I need to get to 90? 67 degrees. And then what about 89 degrees? How many more degrees do I need to get to 90? 1 degree. A teeny tiny little angle. Okay? Do you think all angles have a complement? No. What angles wouldn't have a complement?
Angles more than 90.
Angles more than 90. If I have an obtuse angle, there's nothing I can add to something that's already over 90 and make it equal 90, right? So it's only acute angles will have complements. Obtuse angles won't have complements. Reflex angles won't have complements. Straight angles won't have complements. What about a right angle? Does a right angle have a complement?
No.
No, because it's already at 90 degrees and it takes how many angles to be complementary? 2. So if you've already used all 90 degrees in the first angle, there's 0 degrees left for the second one. If there's 0 degrees in an angle, it's just a ray. It's not an angle, right? So important to remember, only acute angles have complements. It takes two acute angles added together to make 90. Can my complements equal each other? Could I have two angles that are exactly the same that equal 90? Yeah, what angle would that be? 45 degrees, right? Both angles could be 45 and they would complement each other. All right, let's look at this example here. It says angle A and angle B are complementary. If the measure of angle A is 2x plus 7 and the measure of angle B is 5x minus 1, find the value of x. Okay? So, are angle A and angle B, do you think they're adjacent, non-adjacent, or we don't have enough information? When we name an angle with only one letter, what part of the angle does this represent? The vertex. If one angle has a vertex at A and the other angle has a vertex at B, can they be adjacent? No. So we know these are non-adjacent angles. I know that I don't know how big angle A is, but however big it is, I know that it is not sharing that vertex with angle B. But if they're complementary, I know if I slide them up next to each other, I know they're going to make how many degrees? 90 degrees. I know that if I take angle A and I add that to angle B, I know together it's going to make 90 degrees. Okay? So, let's read the next line. My next line says if the measure of angle A is 2x plus 7, and the measure of angle B is 5x minus 1, find the value of x. Okay? So find the value of x. What am I going to do with my two expressions?
Add them.
Right. I know that because I see complementary, I know the measure of angle A plus the measure of angle B is going to equal 90 degrees. because of the word complementary. The definition of complementary tells me the two angles add up to 90 degrees. Okay? So what I need to do is take this angle A, substitute it in to x plus 7, and add that to angle B, substitute that in, 5x minus 1. And I know that's going to equal 90 degrees. So now I'm going to combine like terms. And how many total x's will I have? 7. How many constants will I have? 6. What am I going to do next? Subtraction, property of equality. That's going to give me x equals how much? 84. Oh, not 84. Sorry, 84, but I forgot my 7. Now what do I do? Divide both sides by 7. Division, property of equality. And what does x equal? X equals 12. And that's all it asked me to find. It said find the value of x. I do want to plug it back in and make sure. I want to talk to you about some of the answers y'all been putting in your blanks on assignments. Some of your assignments have said find the value of x and angle A and angle B. And so you've been finding the 12, and then you've been writing the expression in for A and for B, some of you. You haven't actually been finding the number, the value, right? If it says find the value, it wants you to use that x and plug it back in just like we've done in all our notes examples, right? So to check my answer, this isn't really part of this problem because it just says to find x, which I did. But to check my answer, I'm going to plug my 12 in. And I'm going to do 2 times 12 plus 7. What's 2 times 12? 24 plus 7? 31. So this angle A is 31 degrees. Then I'm going to take my x and put it in the next one. 5 times 12 minus 1. 5 times 12? 60. Minus 1? 59. How can I tell by looking at those two answers that I can put a box around the x and feel confident that it's right?
They add up to 90.
They add up to 90. So I know that x, I can put a box around it and I can feel confident that I did it correct because the value of A is 31. The value of B is 59. Questions on complementary angles? All right, I said we have 2 vocabulary words today. That's the first one. 2 angles add up to 90. And the second one is supplementary angles. See if I can fold this a little bit further. There we go. Supplementary angles are, again, just like before. Supplementary angles are still 2 angles. So it's a pair of angles whose sum equals, this time, not 90, but 180. Okay? Just like before, my supplementary angles can be adjacent or non-adjacent. This time when they're adjacent, their non-shared sides will form a line because we know it's 180 degrees on each side of a line. So when I look at my first angles here, are they adjacent or non-adjacent? Adjacent. They're sharing this vertex. They're sharing this ray. They're not overlapping. So they're adjacent. Supplementary or non-supplementary? Supplementary, because 130 plus 50 equals 180. And I can feel confident in saying that this makes a straight line along the bottom there. Okay? If I look at my next 2 angles, over here, my 60 and my 120, adjacent or non-adjacent? Non-adjacent. Non-adjacent. Supplementary or non-supplementary?
Supplementary.
Supplementary. Supplementary, because 120 plus 60 equals 180. My last one here, adjacent or non-adjacent?
Adjacent.
Adjacent. Because they share this vertex and they share this ray. Supplementary or non-supplementary?
Supplementary.
Supplementary. Because 135 plus 45 equals 180. And so I could feel confident in saying that this forms a line. Okay? Just like if two angles are complementary, we say they complement each other. If two angles are supplementary, we say one angle supplements the other. They supplement each other. Okay? So if I wanted to know what is the supplement to a 38-degree angle, how do I figure that out? Subtract 180 minus 38. 142. What's the supplement to 142? Yeah, 38, right? So kind of the same math as that side, just working backwards. What's the supplement to 90? 90. Does every angle have a supplement?
No.
What angles would not have a supplement? Acute. Somebody said acute, but look, this is an acute angle and it's got a supplement. Reflex. A reflex angle does not have a supplement. Anything else?
Straight.
A straight angle is already 180 degrees. It doesn't have a supplement. Anything else? No. That's it, right? Every obtuse angle has an acute supplement. Every angle that's obtuse, so somewhere between 90 and 180, will have an acute angle that you can add to it to get to 180. Every acute angle will have an obtuse angle that you can add to it to get to 180. Okay? Every right angle will need another right angle. It takes two right angles. Okay? But a straight angle and a reflex angle won't be able to be supplementary or won't have supplements. Can you have two acute angles supplementary? No, because you'll never make it to 180. Can you have two obtuse angles? No, if I add two angles together that are bigger than 90, then my result's going to be bigger than 180, right? So it's always going to be an acute with an obtuse or two 90-degree angles. Okay? All right, so we have an example just like we did for complementary. Angle A and angle B are this time supplementary. Are they adjacent or non-adjacent? Non-adjacent, I know because they have different vertexes. A and B have different vertexes. So what I'm going to do is I know that if I slide them together, they'll make a line. So what I usually do is I draw them just kind of next to each other so they look like if I did slide them together, they would make a line, right? If I slid those two together, it would look kind of like a line. So angle A and angle B. I don't know which one's bigger. Well, I can guess angle A is going to be bigger because it's 7x, and then we're adding to that, and the other one's only 1x, and I'm taking away from that. So I can logically think through that angle A is going to be the bigger angle out of these two angles, but sometimes it's harder to tell because the numbers are closer together. Okay? But in this one, I know that when I see that angle A and angle B are supplementary, if that's given to me, then I can use the definition of supplementary to say that if I add those two angles together, it's going to equal how much?
180.
180 this time for supplementary. Okay? So if this is given to me, then I can write this using the definition of supplementary. Then I can go to my next given. My next given says the measure of angle A is 7x plus 2. And then I can go to my next given, which tells me the measure of angle B is x minus 6. And then I can do what with those values? Yeah, I can substitute them into this equation, right, that I use the definition of supplementary for. I can say 7x plus 2 plus x minus 6 is going to equal 180. And then from there, it's just algebra 1, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is what? Combine my like terms. How many total x's do I have? 8. How many constants? Minus 4, negative 4. Then what am I going to do? Addition, property of equality. 8x plus 0 is 8x. 180 plus 4 is 184. Then what? Divide both sides, division, property of equality. And what does x equal? 23. Now, before I put a box around it, I want to feel confident, so I'm going to plug it back in. Even though it didn't ask me to find the values, I'm going to find the values. Again, these expressions are not values. They are expressions. The value is what I get when I plug the 23 back in. Okay? So when I plug the 23 in, 7 times 23 plus 2, what's 7 times 23?
161.
161 plus 2?
163.
163. So then on my other side, when I do 23 minus 6, 23 minus 6 is 17. How can I tell if I have the right answer or not? When I add these two together, what should I equal? 180. And I do. So I can feel confident that I can put a box around the x equals 23. Okay? If you have a hard time remembering the difference between complementary, supplementary, which one's 90 and which one's 180, when you supplement, you're adding 2. So your supplement will always be bigger. That's one way we can remember it. It's always right to give a complement. So I always remember that complement has to be 90 degrees. And then we supplement with another complement. That's another 90, so 180. Another way that you see a lot of times people remembering the difference between complementary and supplementary is they'll put a little bar on the C, and then they'll say, oh, look, that makes 90. Complementary angles add up to 90. And then for supplementary, they'll put a 1 in front of the S, put a diagonal on the S, close up that U, and say, oh, that's 180. So just kind of a little trick to remember the difference between complementary and supplementary. I just usually try to remember the supplementary, you're supplementing, so it's always going to be more, right? When you supplement, you're given more. Okay? So far, so good? Because now we get to do a guess what? A proof. Look how fun. Let's do a proof, because proofs are fun. All right. Given angle HMS and angle SMJ are adjacent supplementary angles. So that's my first given. Okay, sign out, take the pass. All right. Angle, ladies. Angle HMS and angle SMJ are, and I know it's going to be hard to fit, but we can abbreviate ADJ for adjacent. SUPPL, I like to go that far. And then angles, we can use our angle symbol with an S. And that was given to me. When I write the given, I like to draw a picture or add to the picture, depending on the given. I don't have a picture at all, so I need to draw it. I know they're adjacent angles. I know they're supplementary. What is supplement? The definition of supplementary says they're going to do what?
Make 180.
They're going to, I don't like us to say they're going to equal 180. What are we doing to them to get to 180? We're adding them together. So when I ask what does supplementary mean, it doesn't mean they equal 180. Because if somebody tells me that these two angles equal 180, I'm going to go, oh, this one's 180 and this one's 180. If you tell me these two angles equal 180, right? But if you tell me when I add them they equal 180, that means a whole different thing. Okay? So I know the definition of supplementary says if I add these two together, they're going to make 180, which if they have to be adjacent, I know that means they're going to look like a line. What's the vertex for the angle? M. What other point do they have in common that has to be on the shared ray? S. So then my H and my J can go on either side of the M. It doesn't matter which one you put where. Okay, so that's my first given and the picture that goes with it.
Ma'am, you drew two M's.
I did draw two M's. What's the other letter supposed to be?
J.
J. Thank you for catching that. That would have been real confusing on the next step. All right, so then my next step, we have two options. We can either write what we know about supplementary angles now that we've put that in our proof, or we can go to the next given. Okay, we are creatures of habit. Me personally, I would have gone the supplementary route, but this is okay. The measure of angle HMS equals 7x minus 3 degrees. Given. And I like to add these to my picture, HMS, 7x minus 3. And then I assume that means we want to do the next given. The measure of angle, SMJ, equals 3x plus 13 degrees. Given. Yes?
Would it have been easier if we just went the supplemental definition first?
It's not any easier or harder. It's just I like to usually do it right after I write this. I usually like to write a given and say, what else do I know now? Before I move on to another given. Because when we start to get to longer proofs, sometimes the givens they give you, you won't need till later in the proof. And you've already written them, and so by the time you get 4 or 5 steps down the proof, you go, where do I go now? Because you forgot you already wrote that given. But we didn't do that, so now we just have to figure out what comes next. What do you think comes next? I can't do 7x plus 3 equals, or plus 3x plus 13. Huh? Nope.
The definition of supplementary.
The definition of supplementary angles. Which I can only use because I know I have what kind of angles? Yeah, it's in my proof. You can only use things that are in your proof. Okay? So I could use the idea of angle addition postulate, but somewhere in my proof I'd have already had to say that the measure of angle HMJ, I'd have already had to proven that it equals 180, which I haven't done yet. Okay? So I need to go with supplementary angles. What two angles are going to be adding up to 180?
HMS.
Yeah, don't forget the measure of angle. Don't forget the symbols. The measure of angle HMS plus the measure of angle SMJ equals 180. Because the definition of supplementary says two angles that add together to make 180. All right. Now what?
Substitution.
Substitution. HMS is 7x minus 3. I don't have to do the parentheses and the minus 3. Do you remember why? Those are part of the units, and we don't have to write units in the equation. Substitution. And next. Combine like terms. How many x's? 10. How many constants? 10. It's a negative 3, right? Combine like terms. What's next?
Subtraction.
Subtraction. Remember, if you are the kind of person who needs to see that math in between, don't put it so big that I can't tell what is the proof and what is your math, right? So if you feel like you need to write it so that you can see it, look how little it needs to be. And then the next line needs to be big so that I know it's part of the proof. My 10x equals 180. 70. They should not look the same. This little bit right in here should not look like part of either of those two lines. It's just like extra hidden work for you. What do I call that? Subtraction, POE. All right, what's next?
Division.
Oops. Division, property of equality. Division, POE. So again, if you need to show it, it needs to be little because it's not technically part of the proof. It's part of the math behind the proof. So I end up with 10 over 10, which is 1x. 170 over 10 is 17. That is division. POE. Am I done?
No.
No, I haven't proved what I'm trying to prove. What am I trying to prove? HMS. On the last proof that I hand graded, a lot of you went here and you found that this was 17, and then you went and you plugged it into here. If I'm plugging it into here, that's just going to prove that the two sides equal 180. That's not going to prove that the measure of angle HMS is 116. I need to plug it into the measure of angle HMS, my 7x minus 3. Another thing a lot of us lost points for was we said, oh, I'm plugging it into HMS, which is 7x minus 3. But then we didn't say, well, what is that 7x minus 3? It's the measure of angle HMS. It has to be written there what it is. You can't just have an expression. What do I put for my reason next to that? Substitution. All right, let's do the simplification of 7 times 17. So the measure of angle, HMS, equals 7 times 17 is how much? 119? Minus 3. What do I put next to it? I'll tell you it's not multiplication. Simplify. Okay. And then what is 119 minus 3?
116.
HMS equals 116. Is that what we were trying to prove? Yes. HMS equals 116. Prove, right? I put prove here?
No.
Simplify?
Subtraction.
Nope, nope. We're putting two things together on the same side. We're combining two things on the same side of equals. We're combining like terms. I realize there's still blanks there, but we have proven what we were supposed to prove, so we are done with that one. Okay? Your assessment is available for you in Schoology. So you can go in Schoology. If you did not do yesterday's assessment, you get one attempt at these assessments, so make sure you know what you're doing. If you didn't do yesterday's, it's due today. So make sure yesterday's, you get that one finished and completed today. Otherwise, I'm going to go in and fill them in with missings, and they'll calculate the zeros until you get them done. Okay? Today's, try to do it today. It's due tomorrow. Just like if it was on paper, right? It's due by the next day.